So when you're designing an event, you're going to be using media anyway. So when you make your posters, that's a form of media. And with most academic events, your delegates, when they turn up, they'll probably be using social media. If you put in the extra little bit of effort to kind of set up the framework, so for instance on Twitter, you can use hashtags, you can make an account, it just makes it more seamless and more kind of unified. It gives your kind of event a bit more of an identity that people can kind of connect with and engage with a little bit more. So it's definitely worth making it's only a small effort and people are going to be doing it anyway. One of the things with a lot of social media is it's empowering for the delegates and for the people interacting with your information, but at the same time, that power takes the control away from you, so you have to kind of design it as effectively as possible to accommodate for that. So for example, when you think of offline media, if you put a poster up about your event, you don't know who's going to see it, you don't know what people are going to think of it, you don't know how much attention they're going to pay. But by and large, you won't get any feedback, so people won't scroll comments all over it or anything. With Facebook, with blogs, with Twitter, that's exactly the sort of feedback you're opening yourself up to. With emails, you can get a reply to yourself that no one else has to see, which is manageable. It's fine. With Twitter, with Facebook, it's a lot more public. And everyone will see those kind of feedbacks, which can be a good thing if people sort of bouncing ideas off each other, sharing excitement. That kind of does your job for you, and it promotes it in a more effective way because it's coming from people who are themselves engaged rather than you trying to encourage engagement. But at the same time, it can also be bad. So it's just managing it and designing it to be as controlled as possible. So in the session, we try to cover as many of the most widely used, the most familiar social media tools. But obviously there are so many of them and people will have their own ideas about what they want to use, what they don't want to use. So rather than taking each one in turn, we just focus mainly on the issues that social media as a whole kind of bring up. So for example, the idea of privacy, the idea of how widespread your information can go, the issue of feedback. And also one of the things that we try to emphasize is how to create a kind of identity for your conference or your event, and how to use different social media in multiplicity, but also bringing them back together and anchoring them into sort of a main website or a main idea that people can connect with easily. So the main top tip is plan ahead. Don't kind of leave it to chance or leave it to last minute or brush it aside. The sooner you plan your social media strategy, the more seamless it will come across to the delegates. Another top tip, try to integrate as many different social media tools together but without bombarding people. Create a kind of solid identity for your event. It could be like a sort of image, it could be even something as simple as a font style or a layout style. If you try to carry that across as many different platforms as possible, it makes it look a lot more kind of coherent to people. So just think about how it will come across to delegates or to potential delegates, because they're the ones that are going to be interacting with your social media. The best way to learn all this stuff is just to experiment for yourself, have a play about on different sort of social media things, have a look at the different functions of Twitter, see what other conferences are doing as well. So we've provided people who come to our training session with a list of all of our websites so they can sort of see how we've done things for ourselves, what works best, what doesn't work best, and they can decide for themselves then which bits they want to take for their own conferences, because it won't be applicable to all different academic events. So just have a play about with it and decide what you think is best for your own event.